Welcome back to the Eternal Ruins. In this entry, I will speak of exploring the ruins themselves, what the ruins are like, things that you might experience, and how you might best traverse them. The Eternal Ruins are a seemingly endless structure that extend in all directions, both horizontally and vertically. It is labyrinthian and easy to get lost in, filled with winding passages and dead ends. One of the first things you notice while exploring the ruins is the stillness. The ruins are a quiet place. Often the only thing you can hear is the sound of your own footsteps echoing off the ancient stone. In the beginning, the silence can be hard to deal with, but eventually I have come to find it very peaceful. The places you might encounter during your wandering vary greatly. One might journey down tight, dark corridors for days before emerging onto a dizzyingly vast hall where the ceilings can barely be seen. In these more open areas, you might see the light making its way down from the structures above. This light always seems to be out of reach, and any attempts to reach the top are always greeted with more ruins. Bridges span vast bottomless chasms lined with never-ending buildings on both sides. After ascending staircase after staircase, one might be blessed with a view spanning the rooftops of the many buildings of this ancient place. Exploring these complexes reveals countless deserted spaces, their original purpose eroded by the passage of time. We can only guess at the intended meaning of the places we explore. Perhaps some spaces were created for living in, or perhaps some were created for work or worship. The scale of the ruins suggests a vast civilization of immense craftsmanship. Beautiful decorations and statues cover many of the walls, showing things that I often fail to understand. Everything is constructed of stone in varying stages of age and decay. It is often cool and damp to the touch, and can sometimes be cracked or covered in moss. The ruins were obviously not created with small wanderers such as ourselves in mind. They can be oppressively large. It once took me several days just to cross a single chamber. The many pathways are laid out in ways I find difficult to comprehend, and there are many obstacles without clear solutions, such as sealed doorways with no means of opening them. A wanderer is often faced with the frustrating problem of clearly seeing where they wish to go, but finding themselves unable to find a path that leads there. As you wander these age-old halls, you will see that they are not all the same. Some areas are particularly damaged, filled with crumbling buildings and fallen monuments. I have encountered flooding that has made areas impossible to traverse without help. Some areas are overgrown with plant life, and some passageways are prone to powerful gusts of wind. Certain halls have constant rainfall falling from above. There are also places that are especially dark, where lantern light almost seems to be smothered. If you are a newly awakened wanderer, you will eventually ask yourself the question, is this place truly endless? It can be maddening to walk and walk only to be greeted by more of these ancient stone structures. For many fresh wanderers, it becomes too much. At some point, we all become convinced that there must be a way out, that something greater must exist beyond these halls. I can only speak from my own experience, but I have seen nothing during my many travels to suggest such a thing. I encourage you to make peace with our place in this world, lest you be brought to despair seeking something that simply does not exist. Another aspect of the ruins that wanderers may find difficult is its labyrinthine nature. As I have said, the layout can be disorientating, and it doesn't take much to become lost. So much so that if you find yourself split off from a companion, there is a very real chance that you might not ever find them again. Any attempts to map the ruins seem to be another certain road to despair, for the structures themselves seem to shift and change. Some wanderers believe that the Eternal Ruins has a mind of its own, and revels in tricking the travelers that wander its halls. However, I have encountered bands of servitors that have the sole task of building and rebuilding this place. When they pass through an area, it can become completely changed. Now for some advice on exploring the Eternal Ruins. When you turn a corner to find yet another dead end, you will inevitably become tired and frustrated. There is nothing more troubling than walking for days without progress. This often leads a wanderer to make poor choices, and that can lead to danger. My best advice is this: sit down and set up camp. Rest until you have regained your strength, and then backtrack until you have more paths to explore. If you're really stuck, remember to look up and down for places you might not reach just by walking. Remember, there are always more ruins to explore. Of course, the first thing any wanderer learns is how to find water. This should not be difficult, as there are many fountains to be found throughout the ruins. The water seems to flow without end, and it is quite safe to drink. You can also find streams and springs throughout the ruins too. If you're having trouble finding water, look for signs of sprites, for where there are sprites, there is water. A wanderer might find themselves curious about the passage of time. Sometimes we don't see light for a long time, and it can become difficult to tell whether it is day or night. If this is the case, listen closely. In certain areas, bells ring to mark the transition between day and night. Lastly, it is good to remember that you are not alone. Even though we rarely meet each other wanderers are exploring these halls too. Keep your eyes open for piles of pebbles. Some wanderers leave a pebble as they pass to let other wanderers know that they have been there. It can be comforting to know that you're not alone, and many pebbles can indicate a safe path. A place with few or no pebbles could be unexplored and possibly dangerous. The pebbles are only the beginning of the hidden signs that wanderers leave for each other. There is a group known as the Silver Circle who desire to collect knowledge so as to better understand our place here. While we never meet collectively, we do have ways of sharing the knowledge we acquire on our journeys. Special symbols might, for example, indicate a loose stone that when pried open reveals a stash of tablets and scrolls, just like the one you're reading now. And so this concludes this entry on exploring the ruins. It is an endless journey, and there is always more to learn. It is not without its challenges and frustrations, and there will be times when you lose hope. In time though, I hope that you will also learn to find peace from the wandering itself, placing one foot before the other, journeying onwards, your mind free from despair. That's all for this episode on exploring the ruins. I've been meaning to make this video for a while, as I've been longing to immerse myself in what it would be like to wander the Eternal Ruins. Architecture and environments are especially challenging for me, but I'm glad I decided to focus on it. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to follow the channel and leave a comment. You can also support the Eternal Ruins on Patreon. I'm currently trying to turn this project into a full-time job, so every pledge helps me keep making new videos and art. I post process notes behind my art, as well as weekly lore pages like these. These lore pages are extra little bits of lore documenting specific encounters and will never contain anything vital to understanding the ruins. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.